Well, hello friends, welcome back to the shop. Today is Sunday, July 9th, and I am just back from my trip up north to northern Vermont. Got back in late last night. Wasn't really planning on doing a video today, but I had something on my mind that I wanted to talk about. Had plenty of time to think about things while I was driving to and from Vermont, and you unfortunately are going to get to hear about it. So today I'm smoking my Europe pipe, and I'm smoking L.J. Peretti's Cuban Mixture, a blend that I've really been enjoying. So while in Vermont, I took Cuban Mixture, Haunted Bookshop, and Carter Hall, and I smoked them all, but I probably smoked more Cuban Mixture than anything else. It's good stuff. The trip itself was great. It was great to see my dad and my brother and sister and my sister's kids, and spend some time with them. Helped my dad get some work done. Cut up some wood and did a little bit of work on his roof and a few other odds and ends. Time flew by very quickly, but yeah, it's good to be home as well. I'm getting back into routines now. So the thing I wanted to talk about today relates to a VR request, and this is for RealMcCoyPiper. If you haven't seen RealMcCoyPiper, I'm going to put links above and below to his channel. Please go see him, give him a sub. Very nice guy, does good content, and always interesting to watch. He's just recently passed the 100 sub milestone, so he's having a giveaway contest. I don't want to be entered in the contest. I'm just making the video to really support your channel because I like what you do. So please don't enter me in the drawing. But everyone that is watching and hasn't seen RealMcCoyPiper, please go and take a look at his channel. And what he asked, and I'm not going to remember the exact question, but he basically asked for us to talk about corncob pipes, and I think it was, if you love them, if you hate them, what do you think of corncob pipes? And I'm going to talk about that, but I want to talk about it in a larger context, and this is what I've been thinking about all week. Not corncob pipes, but pipes in general, and the different categories of pipes, and what that actually means. You hear these terms thrown around: factory pipe, artisan pipe, and so on. And what does that really mean? And what does it mean? In light of how do we interpret a corncob in light of all these other things? Strange topic, I know, but bear with me. I think you'll find it interesting. So first off, you can divide the pipe making world into a couple of categories, and the two most obvious categories are factory pipes and artisan pipes. And we hear these terms all the time. So when I think of a factory pipe, the first thing that comes to mind is a Dr. Grabo. Pipes that are being turned out in high quantity, and maybe not with the best attention to detail, but good smoking tools all in all. And I will say that as I'm going through this, I'm not trying to say that one is better than the other at all. There are some wonderful factory pipes that I love smoking, and there are some wonderful artisan pipes that I love smoking. So it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But we should have our terms straight, or at least I want to have my terms straight. So this is how I see the world. You may see it differently, and that's okay too. So in the factory pipe world, yeah, Dr. Grabo's in there, but there's others as well. And I think a lot of times we don't think about, Peterson, Savinelli, Dunhill as factories, but they are factories. And you can see this. There are YouTube videos of Dunhill pipe making, and Savinelli. I believe it's a Savinelli video as well. There's definitely a Peterson. And by and large, these are factories where you've got one guy running a machine and then passing the work off to another guy, and it goes in an assembly line-like fashion. A lot of machine work. Stems are made on machines, or molded stems that are finished on machines. It's all very much assembly line, designed to make identical pipe after pipe after pipe. And some good pipes get made that way. Now, The artisan side of it, the way I normally think about that is that you've got one or maybe a couple of guys or girls making each pipe. So someone sees it through from block of briar and stick of ebonite to pipe. There's one person that's looking at all that, or at least a few people that are looking at all of that and following that process through. And they are starting with a block of briar and a stick of ebonite or a stick of acrylic. They're not using factory stems. They're not using factory bowls or stummels. It is possible to actually get factories to make pipes for you, and there are people who do this. You contract with the factory, they make pipes, they can make them to your specifications, put your name on them, and then you sell them. And that's something that is done, and it's a perfectly fine thing to do, and you can get some good quality pipes that way. But they're not artisan pipes. They're factory pipes that are being sold under someone's name. Now, artisan pipes, again, I think is one or relatively few people working, and hand making the pipe. Now, hand making is a bit of a hazy topic as well. I would argue that there's actually two types of artisan pipes. There's machined artisan pipes, and there's freehand artisan pipes. So the machined ones, and this is actually very, very common, it's perfectly good. It makes for a fantastic pipe, and I own many of them. But a machined artisan pipe, the pipe maker is using a lathe to first drill the block of briar, and then shape the briar around that drilling. So if you can imagine a block of wood that now has a tobacco chamber board in it and a draft hole board in it, the pipe maker will then take that and will remove all of the briar around those cavities to leave the shape of a pipe. And that's how many, many artisan pipes are made. And they're excellent because of the attention to detail. So when you have one person doing all this work and doing a lot of it by hand, initial shaping on a lathe, but then working by hand, you're going to get that attention to detail. And importantly, to details like the draft hole and the stem, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The other type of artisan pipe making, so that's machined artisan pipes, my term. There's also freehand artisan pipes, where the pipe maker is looking at the block of briar, looking at the grain, and then the machine guy looks at the grain as well. But the freehand pipe maker is shaping the pipe before drilling it. So he's making the shape of the pipe based on the grain, actually looking at how the grain is moving through, and as he's carving away briar, he's trying to optimize the grain, both in terms of the quality of the pipe smoking. So he understands that different grain patterns or lack of grain patterns may lead to different behaviors in the briar, but also looking towards the aesthetics of the grain. And the pipe that he winds up with may not be the pipe that he thought he was going to make in the beginning. But that's okay because he hasn't drilled it yet. So once he has a pipe-shaped piece of briar, he then goes and freehand drills the tobacco chamber in the airway. And this is the way that the famous Danish freehands were made, and still are made today by some. And there's also a Japanese school of freehand pipe making that's very, very evolved. And there's people all over the world using the freehand method, so it's not just restricted to those countries, but those two countries really kind of developed the art form. So you've got machined artisan and freehand artisan, and again, it's not a good or a bad thing. The freehand artisan is using plenty of machines because nobody's going to sit there with sandpaper and sand away all that briar. So there's machines used in both cases, but the use of machines to shape versus the use of hand-eye coordination to shape is what I'm trying to draw a distinction with. Both very good quality. What makes artisan pipes stand out, what makes me believe that it's worthwhile paying for an artisan pipe, comes down to the engineering in the draft hole through the shank, and in the airway in the stem, as well as the exterior of the stem. So in an artisan pipe, you're generally going to get a slightly larger draft hole. And it opens up the flow is less restricted through an Artisan pipe. They're generally drilled wider, and that wider drilling is balanced by the way the stem is made. The interior of the stem on a hand cut pipe is going, a hand cut stem rather, is going to be very carefully funneled out and designed to provide basically an equal volume of airflow through the stem as through the shank. Now you can see the shank is going to be thicker than the stem, at least in this dimension, and that means you can have a larger hole through the shank than you can through the stem. So to make up for that, you can make the hole through the stem smaller in this dimension but wider in this dimension. So you wind up funneling out the airway around the button and again trying to make an equal amount of air pass through both the shank and the stem. The other thing, well, in addition to that, the stem is polished on the inside, so there's no place where turbulence can develop, and you just get this smooth, continuous flow of air throughout the whole system. It really makes a huge difference. The other place where the Artisan pipes really stand head and shoulders above the factory pipes is the button. You know, they're very carefully shaped. They're designed to be comfortable, to be easy to clench, and can even be customized for individual buyers. If you like a thick button, thin button, you know, whatever. And you're not going to find that on a factory pipe. So that's kind of an overview of how I see the world of briar pipes. And again, I'm just giving that to you as a sort of foundation for the way I see it. You can see it differently. I don't want to argue with you. There's nothing right or wrong about the way we divide these things up. I just think it's good to have some definitions. Now, what in the world does that have to do with a corncob pipe? Well, it turns out if you ignore the tobacco chamber for now and just talk about the shank and the stem, this pipe in very many ways replicates the engineering of a fine Artisan pipe. You have a open airway here, so it's very open. It's a nice easy flow, and you've got a fairly large air passageway through the stem. It's a molded stem, molded from a plastic, so it's not the most comfortable thing in the world, but you know, there's this large cavity in there which is designed to hold the filter, and then there is a significant widening. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but you've probably all seen focusing fun. You know, the actual airway opening here is, come on, there's a lot of room in there. I can move this around. It's funneled out. Basically, the internal workings of this pipe are very, very close to what an Artisan pipe maker would strive to make in their pipes. I know there's Artisan pipe makers that are going to send me hate mail for saying that. Again, I'm not trying to say these are better or worse or anything else. I'm just talking about what I observe. Now, where this has problems is in the tobacco chamber. You know, you've got that shank extension that goes all the way in there. That's going to burn. You're going to get the taste of burning wood, and your air hole's never going to be localized properly in the tobacco chamber. Now, I showed you how to get around that in my Cob Mob videos. All you need is a screwdriver or a chisel and some cigar ash, and you can get this smoking very well. But putting that aside, this really does have a lot of features that I think explain why it smokes so darn well. it's made in the way, and whether it's accidental or intentional, the internal workings of this pipe are very similar to high-end artisan pipes. Now, why then would you spend $200, $300 on an artisan pipe when you can get this guy for, I think, about $6? Well, there's a couple reasons. One is what I already mentioned about the tobacco chamber, and the cob does impart some flavor to the smoke, so that's an issue. The other is the stem itself. It's this cheap feeling plastic, not the most comfortable mouthfeel. And the third is they do not last as long. They can last a very long time. I have cobs that are over 5 years old, and I smoke them fairly regularly, but they will someday burn out, and that's just the nature of the beast. It's a corn cob, it's not a piece of briar. And that's important. The reason it's important is that, and I'd be interested to hear other people's opinion on this as well, especially if you've been smoking for 20, 30, 40 years. It's been my experience that when you buy a pipe, a briar pipe, the first 5 or 10 smokes are often a little rough. It never performs as well as it's going to perform. And then after about 5 or 10 smokes, you start to sort of hit a plateau where it's smoking nice. It's broken in, things are going well. And you'll continue on that plateau, and if you keep it long enough, if you smoke it regularly, you're going to get to the point, and I've not counted this, so I don't know where it is, but there's somewhere that's probably around 100 bowls where this thing just changes. It kicks into another mode of function that is just remarkably different. It becomes a different pipe. It becomes a high-end smoking machine. And that's true whether it's factory made or artisan made. The briar itself seems to somehow change with use. And there's something magical that happens after that sort of, 70 to 100 bowl point. I can't really pinpoint it for you. And that's why I have pipes that are, that I bought when I first started smoking that smoke better than anything else I own. And it's not because they were expensive. It's not because they were artisan. They're not. They're mostly cheap factory pipes. But it's because I've used them so much that they've adapted and they've developed this just ability to perform. And that's something that you're never going to get with one of these guys. For 2 reasons. One is this is not briar, and I think that what I just described is a property of briar. And second, this is not going to last probably for as many smokes as it would need to get to that point. It's an incredible value considering how well this will smoke the day you get it. This is a different beast. It's going to behave differently. It's going to change over time. So, it's really which do you want? Now, and I would, I own corn cob pipes, I smoke corn cob pipes, and I will continue to do that because I really do think they're wonderful value, and they do smoke well. But I'm not going to give up briar because I think briar's got some wonderful features as well. And this leads me to the last point, which is around cob modding. So I mentioned that you can take care of that tobacco chamber issue pretty easily with a chisel and some cigar ash, and I've got a video on that. And as you probably know, or you'll know now because I'm going to tell you, I have a website, canerodpipes.com, and on that website I have services for tobacco repair and restoration, and I also had a page for cob mods, and I was doing mods for people, either mods that I had done in the past, like the Stubby Gent, or ideas that they might have for new ways to modify the corn cob pipe. I have taken that page down. The reason being, I just can't, in my opinion, I cannot provide a value to you that I'm comfortable with. You know, the minimum amount that I could charge for the stubby jet was $45 in the end, and that was really just covering materials. Yeah, there's a lot of steps in making that pipe, a lot of parts that have to fit together, a lot of gluing, a lot of overnight. It takes me about a week to make one. Granted, I'm not working 8 hours a day on it, but there's a lot of overnight steps that have to happen. So yeah, it's about a week's work, and with material cost and everything, $45 was the lowest price I could do. And people happily paid that, and you know, seemed to enjoy the pipes, and I'm glad for that. But it doesn't make me really comfortable to do it. And then when I think about other types of mods, you know, I could pop a hardwood shank on this and a acrylic stem and you know, be done in a day, and probably sell it for $30–35. But you're not going to get anything that smokes better than this. I cannot improve on this other than the pipe mud trick that I just told you can all do yourself. And there's a lot of guys out there that are doing cob mods, and you know, some of them are, you know, fairly, I don't mean to be offensive here, but they're fairly simple. You know, they're cracking out the shank, they're stuffing in an antler, they're painting it, they're putting in a factory stem, and they're selling it for $45. And I just can't compete with that, because they can knock them out in a day. I can't. The kind of work that I like to do takes longer than a day, and I can't charge more. So yeah, I'm not going to do cob mods anymore, is the bottom line. They're great fun. I highly recommend as a hobby that people do them, and I'm happy to help anyone that wants to get into that, you know, answering questions and whatnot. And I'm sure that if somebody's desperately wanting something, I'll make exceptions, but I'm not going to offer it on the website anymore, just because, and I want to make this really clear, this is a fantastic value that I cannot in any way improve on. So I hope that was interesting to you. I hope you enjoyed thinking about these various types of pipes and how they're manufactured and how that may or may not be important to you. I think they're all very good in their own way, and I love my factory pipes, I love my Artisan pipes, and I love my corncob pipes. And I don't like when people say things like, you know, corn cobs are no good, you have to smoke briar, or only Peterson pipes are good. No, it's, you smoke what you like and you like what you smoke, and that's really the bottom line. And that's true whether it's the pipe or the tobacco. If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong. But if you're having fun, you're doing everything right. Well, friends, with that, I think I'm going to draw this this video to a close. I hope I don't get too much hate mail over this one. I really didn't intend to be offensive to anyone. Or to try to upset anyone. I just wanted to sort of tell you how I see the world. And feel free to respond. I'd like to know if you see the world differently. But do it kindly. So with that, I will draw this to a close. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I greatly appreciate it. And until we speak again, I will look forward to talking to you all again very soon. Goodbye now.